So thank you everybody for coming tonight, and the topic is on meditation. And let me just first mention that pretty much everything I do in my office for my patients is something that has helped me, and then I like to share it with others. And this is one of those things, and I'll talk more about my personal experience in just a moment. First, let me tell you that my purpose for tonight, my heart's desire for tonight, is that you'll learn things that you can easily apply in your life that will make you a happier, more peaceful person. So I think we can all agree that we live in a very troubled world, a very sick world, where we have people doing horrible things to other human beings, killing other people, mistreating, abusing other people. And as much as we want to legislate out things like crimes of hate, or we want to make all weapons illegal, it doesn't get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is what's going on inside of our hearts. And so it's my desire tonight that what you're going to learn is going to help the world become a better place, because world peace will never be achieved through legislation. World peace will be achieved when the individual people in the world are at peace with themselves. When we're at peace, then the world will start to be at peace. How in the world can we expect world leaders who don't seem to be very peaceful people themselves try to negotiate a peace deal with an entire country or group of people? So the things that you'll learn tonight, hopefully you will apply these things and you'll be a more peaceful person, and it's going to contribute to our world becoming a more loving, peaceful place. And so let me begin by reading through a list of some signs that might indicate that meditation would be helpful to you. Okay? So if you're unhappy, depressed, anxious, stressed out, you worry a lot, you emotionally eat, you're addicted to something, you can't be alone, you can't be quiet, meaning you've always got a TV or a radio or something going, you have to have a TV on or something somewhere to be able to fall asleep, you're forgetful, you spend a lot of time going to places and then thinking, what am I here after? You lose things, you misplace things, you frequently misplace your keys, your purse, your wallet, other things like that. You have a hard time focusing on things, especially things that you do all the time, like saying a prayer, reading a book of scripture, something you're familiar with. You find that your mind wanders very quickly when you start doing those things. You find that when you, well, in fact, you're probably not aware of this yet, but think about it next time you're talking to someone. Do you find yourself actually listening to that person, or are you planning what you're going to say when they stop talking? And so other things, physical things that would indicate meditation would be beneficial for you. You have low back pain, neck pain, jaw pain, headaches, TMJ problems, indigestion, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, or chronic pain. So everything that I've just listed, there are studies that show that meditation is very, very beneficial for these things. Was there anybody here that didn't have any of those things? Raise your hand. Nobody? All right. Okay. So I think we could agree this will be beneficial for all of us. And so what you first got to understand about meditation, you first have to understand what the problem is so that you can begin to acknowledge and begin to fix it. And so the problem is how our brain works by default. And so the Buddha described it as the monkey mind. And what he meant by that is that our mind is constantly jumping from one thought to another thought to another thought to another thought. The second problem is that our brains are geared towards referencing everything relative to ourselves. And so what that means in practical application, again, is that when you're talking to someone else, you're not really listening to them, you're thinking about what you're going to say to them. Or when you have time where you're not engaged with something, you are constantly thinking about a narrative story about yourself, whether what's happened to you in the past, and if other people are involved, it's what they did to you, what they said to you. Or you're constantly thinking about the future, planning for the future, and it's a story about yourself and what's going to happen, and we want to plan for pleasure and avoid pain and things like that. And when we're constantly doing self-referencing behavior, lots of times we're also judging every situation. Everything is in reference to us. Do I like this? Do I like that? This is better than that. This person said this, and this is better, and this is right, and this is wrong. So everything is about us. And the interesting thing about that is that when we do those things, there are certain parts of our brain that light up. So the part of our brain that lights up when we're constantly thinking about ourselves, it's about this area of our brain. It's called the right prefrontal cortex. And so people that meditate, when they do scans on their brain, they just have them sit in a functional MRI machine and it shows where their brain activity is going. They're on the other side of the brain. It's called the left prefrontal cortex. So we could do a test right now where if we had everyone go into a functional MRI machine, we could see how dominant you are on one side or the other side. And that correlates very, very directly with how happy you are. So people that are always thinking about themselves and what's going on in reference to themselves are more on this side. People that are spending more time thinking about others and their needs, they're going to have more activity here, and they're also a lot happier, they're more generous, they're more caring, kind, and compassionate than people that are always focused on themselves. So there's a physiological change that happens depending on how we think. And so meditation is going to help you go to the other side of your brain that's not so focused on yourself. And lots of wonderful things start to happen when we do that, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Let me talk a little bit more about what happens when we're always have the monkey mind, where our thoughts are scattered all the time, and we're always thinking about ourselves. The main thing that happens is we're unhappy. And we're unsatisfied. So we're unsatisfied because when we're referencing everything to us, there's not enough stuff going on in the world to keep us happy. There's not enough people in the world there to make us happy. I mean, you can't always be telling me how wonderful I am. Sometimes it's going to run out. You can't always be there to entertain me and encourage me and do all the things that I need if I'm dependent on other people to be happy. And so when our brain is focused on that, we're always looking for these things to help, again, us feel good or confident or whatever it is about ourselves. And it's always in reference to ourselves. The interesting thing about it is that when we pursue happiness for happiness' sake, we don't ever find it. In other words, if I have to do something outside of myself to be happy, it's only going to be momentarily. If I'm going to a movie because I want to feel better, when the movie's done, I'm not going to be happy. If I'm with another person because they make me feel happy, then when I'm not with them, I'm going to be unhappy. And so if we do things that just naturally breed happiness, because that's what they do, which I'll discuss later, then we become happy. So it's paradoxical. If we're seeking for happiness, we really never find it. You can't buy enough things to ever truly be happy. You can't have enough entertainment to always be happy, and other people are never going to be there enough for you to be happy. And even though we're talking about things outside of ourselves, the way that our brain works is really we're only thinking about ourselves, that we want those things for us, not for their own sakes or for other people. And so meditation will train your brain how to work so that you can enjoy the most out of life. And so think about it for a second. Think about an experience that you had that was a really happy memory for you. Okay, think about what you were doing. Now think about what your brain was doing when you were doing that thing. Were you thinking about other things, or were you in the moment with what you were doing? Okay, and I think everybody probably recognizes they were in the moment. Whatever captures our attention the most is what makes us the most happy. Music that captures our attention the most makes us the most happy, because in that moment we're focused on that one thing and we're not thinking about other things. The movies you like the most are the ones where you're the most focused on it. And again, your mind's not wandering, thinking about other things. Again, doing the monkey mind thing, jumping from one thought to another thought. The activities that you do the most, that capture your attention the most, are the things you enjoy the most, whatever it is. Well, what if you could train your brain to do that anytime, even washing the dishes? And so let me tell you about a very interesting study that was done where they had people wear pagers. And randomly these pagers would go off. And that person would have to recognize, number one, what they were doing. Number two, what their mind was doing, if they were focused on what they were doing or not. And number three, how happy they felt. So the interesting thing is it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're engaged and focused on what you're doing, you're happy. So you could be doing the dishes, and if you're focused on doing the dishes, you're being happy. If you're doing something that we would tend to think of as a very, very pleasurable activity, but your mind's not into it, you're not going to enjoy it. So it doesn't matter what it is. One of the secrets to happiness is learning to be in the present moment. And that's what meditation teaches us to do. When we're in focus on the present moment, our brain calms down, our body calms down, and it stimulates this part of our brain that lends itself to happiness. Now, if we're doing this with the goal of trying to be happy, we're going to become very frustrated. And so if we're doing it just because we do it, just like a rose smells good because it smells good. It's not trying to impress anyone or be something for someone. That's just what it is. So with meditation, the goal is not to achieve happipiness or peace or whatever. The goal is just to meditate. And peace and happiness will be the natural byproduct of that. So the first principle of meditation is awareness of present experience with acceptance. So this is one of the great keys, and this you can easily apply in everything that you're doing in life. So when you're doing something, think about what you're doing instead of doing something else. So I used to think that I needed to be multitasking as much as possible in order to be as efficient as possible. And what I discovered that I was doing was just driving myself nuts and making myself a very anxious, uptight person. And so what I have found is when I focus on doing one thing at a time, I'm more peaceful, I'm more happy, and I get things done better. And I'll give you and faster. I'm actually more efficient. I'll give you a very simple example. And so brushing my teeth, being the multitasker, I would be brushing my teeth, I'd be walking around, picking out my outfit for the next day, taking the pillows off the bed, picking up stuff, putting it away, cleaning the house, brushing my teeth, and it would take me 5 minutes to do that. So our toothbrush is electric. It has a little timer on it. It goes for 2 minutes, right? So it'd take me like 5 minutes to brush my teeth. And when I stopped doing that, and I just sat there and I just brushed my teeth, so I caught my toothbrush meditation, I finished in 2 minutes. So I was much, much more efficient doing one thing at a time. So as silly as that seems, if you can apply this one principle, it really can change your life. You don't even have to sit down and do an actual formal meditation. If you just focus on what you're doing at that one time, and when your mind wanders, bring your attention back to what you're doing, that will start to bring your brain and your body at peace, and you'll find you actually get more things done. So that's the first principle of meditation. It's awareness of present experience with acceptance. The acceptance part is another big key to this. So instead of always thinking about the future, what am I going to do next, or I'd be happier if I was doing this or that, it's just accepting things for how they are. As we do that, it allows our body to be at peace. If we're not in a place of acceptance, then we're not as happy. If we're always wishing things were different, you're not going to be as happy. It's pretty straightforward. So let me just clear one misconception. Meditation is not clearing your mind of all thoughts. That's nearly impossible. Well, although if you're a really experienced meditator, that might happen. But that's not what meditation is. Meditation is learning to focus on one thing at a time. When we do that, our brain calms down. We're not anxious. If we're focused on the moment, we're not depressed. We realize everything's okay. And we're happy. So we're going to practice that right now. So I want everybody to sit up in good posture, in a dignified position, just somewhere that's comfortable. You can have your hands crossed. You can have your fingertips touching. You can just rest your hands in your lap. You don't have to, but I'd recommend you uncross your legs and just put your feet flat on the floor. And just sit up straight. And I want you to close your eyes. And I just want you to pay attention to your breath. So as you do this, where do you feel your body move with your breath? And if you're not sure, put a hand on your chest and put a hand over your stomach. Okay, so just feel your body move with your breath. Now, after 10 seconds of silence, I would guess there are a lot of people where their minds started to wander and they started thinking about things like, what's he going to talk about next? What's coming up? How long do I do this for? What am I doing when I get home? Et cetera, et cetera. And that's okay. Everybody's mind is going to wander. That's just how our mind works. Meditation is not doing anything perfectly. Meditation is just being aware of what's going on. So when your mind wanders, congratulate yourself that you found your mind wandering. You're aware of your mind wandering. You're aware of your thoughts and what's going on. So when your mind wanders, bring your focus back to your breath. And again, just focus on where you're feeling your body move with your breath. Now, to make this a little more formal and a little easier for beginners, if you're having a hard time keeping your mind focused, try breathing in and counting to 5 as you breathe in, see if you can get your breath to last for 5 seconds. And then as you breathe out, slowly breathe out, see if you can get your breath to last for 5 seconds. And then do it again. You're going to breathe in for 5 seconds slowly and feel your body move. And breathe out. And feel your body move as you breathe out and count to 5. And when your mind wanders, it's like a baby learning to walk. We don't scold it when it falls down. We just have it try again. And we're grateful that it's trying. So there's not right or wrong. There's not good or bad. There's just doing it. Like brushing my teeth, my toothbrush meditation. There's not a good job or a bad job. I just do it. And when your mind wanders, just be at peace with that. Accept that your mind wandered. It's okay. Just bring your focus back to your breath. Now, keep focusing on your breath, and let me just mention that you can choose to focus on something else if you'd like. If you're lucky enough to be feeling some discomfort somewhere, you could focus on that. And you'll find it'll probably start to go away after a few minutes of just being aware of it. We're not trying to avoid it. We're not trying to distract ourselves from anything. We're just finding something to be aware of and just focusing on that one thing. Okay, so go ahead and open your eyes. And does anybody want to share their experience with that? Who was that easy for? Just raise a hand. Who was that really easy for? Okay. Raise your hand if that felt really hard to do. Okay. Okay, great. And there's not good or bad or right or wrong. There's just the experience.
If you felt like you were starting to fall asleep,
okay.
good or bad?
Well, it probably just means you need more sleep. So I'd go to bed then. Okay. So if you find yourself falling asleep but you want to meditate, I would scoot forward so you're sitting on the edge of your chair and you're not leaning back. Or you can try it standing up. Okay. But isn't that great that your body calmed down that quickly that you wanted to sleep? Okay, so a couple of tips for meditation. When I first started doing this, and I'm not kidding when I say this, I could do 2 breaths and that was it. Before it was like, well, I got to do something. I can't just not sit here. Like my brain was itching. I got to do something. I got to be productive. I can't just not sit. So really, I'm not kidding. That's how wired I had gotten myself to be. So I started out doing it with just 2 breaths, and now I'm to the point where sometimes 30 minutes of meditation feels wonderful, and it's really relaxing and peaceful. And sometimes I have a bad day, and after 2 or 3 minutes, I want to quit because I feel kind of agitated, and it's not a pleasant experience. So there's hope, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, and I think my wife could verify this, is that as I really started doing this and dedicated time to try and do it every day, that how peaceful I am and a much happier person has accelerated. So it's like anything in life. If you put a little bit into it, you'll get a little bit out of it. If you put a lot into it, you'll get a lot out of it. And the main thing is just doing it. Again, there's not right or wrong and there's not good or bad. There's just doing it. But the more you do it, the more you'll find that it's a peaceful experience. The more you'll find that your mind focuses more on your breath and it probably wanders less. And on the days it doesn't, that's okay. Just be okay with having an agitated, irritated mind that wants to get up and do stuff. So the key is just accepting where we're at. If we can accept where we're at in life, then we're going to be happy. So let me share with you an incredible story. There was a Buddhist monk from Tibet who was taken prisoner by the Chinese in 1959. And he was released about 25 years later in the early 80s. During his captivity, he was not treated well. There were times where he was tortured and beaten and deprived of food and all sorts of things. And when he finally was released, he was talking to another monk. And he said to them, there was one time where there was a really, really dangerous situation during my captivity. And of course, the monk was thinking about how his life was threatened. And he said, there was a time when I almost lost compassion for my captors. And then he meditated and he became at peace again. So when they studied this man, he had physical scars. He had trauma. His body was not the same. But he showed no signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. He was as peaceful as if this had never happened. And so that, to me, sounds impossible. For most of us, probably sounds impossible. But the point is that if you apply this, and you apply it a lot, it really can change the world, and it's the root for peace for you and world peace for all of us. And so when I first started meditating, one of the things that helped me do it the most was trying to set up time every day to do it. So first thing in the morning, before you go to bed at night, whenever. Second thing is realize you don't need a tremendous amount of time. We went through a 2-minute meditation before we started the video and realized that any time is better than no time. And even if you're doing something where you can't have a formal meditation, we've already talked about practicing just being aware of what's going on around you and just accepting it and having your mind focus on one thing at a time is a type of a meditation. In fact, studies show that yoga, for example, has very similar benefits to meditation because you're focusing on one thing at a time, holding a position, focusing on your breath, things like that. And so please don't confuse this with distractions like movies or radios or whatever. If it's a distraction, you have to get more and more of it to get the same effect. Meditation is not that way. So for example, like with TVs and movies, right? We need more action. We need more grisly, horrible stories and more explosions and things like that, or it's not as interesting as movies that were made 50 years ago that don't have all this action. So if you're distracting yourself with something, you get desensitized to it. With meditation, the more you practice it, actually the more sensitive you become, and you can get a better benefit by doing it for shorter periods of time. And so what I would recommend doing is ideally trying to set aside 10 minutes twice a day to practice this. And even if you did 2 minutes once a day, something is better than nothing. And so if you're an anxious person like me, I would recommend that you get a timer. And what I do is I tell myself, okay, I don't have to do anything for the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. And I set my timer because then when my mind wanders and my mind says, okay, how much more time do I have? I can remind myself, I set a timer, so I'm not going to focus on that thought. And I picture my thoughts that come like leaves dropping into a stream and they just float by and they're gone. Or a car that drives by on the street, it's there for a second and then it's gone. And so there's nothing wrong with having thoughts. Just acknowledge it and let it go. But it helps me to put aside that time and not be so anxious about how much time I have left. And so if a timer would be helpful, I would encourage you to do that. It doesn't matter, again, how you do it, whether you're sitting, standing, whatever. You can try it laying down, but you're going to focus on one thing at a time, which generally is your breath. You could focus on lighting a candle and staring at that candle. You could look at a picture that you like. You could watch a sunset. You could, do a number of things. And so sometimes when I'm really agitated and I have a hard time just sitting and breathing, I will do a meditation like this, where I'll breathe in. As I breathe out, I'll say, Om, and I'll hold that really long. And as I do that, I focus on just feeling my chest vibrate as I do that. You can also do a meditation where you say something to yourself. It could be something as simple as, I am at peace, or whatever it is you want to focus on. And you say that to yourself over and over again. And then when your mind wanders, then you bring your focus back to that statement. So there's a type of meditation called meditation where you do a statement, but it's focused on somebody else. And so one of them goes like this. You picture someone that you have a good relationship with, that you feel love from. And you picture that person, and you would close your eyes, and you'd say that person's name and say, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you be free from suffering. And you do that over and over again. And when that gets really easy, pick someone maybe you don't have as good feelings with, and try and do that meditation, and send them those positive thoughts and energy. And you can even try that for yourself as well. So again, there's multiple ways you can do it, and it's really just focusing on one thing at a time. And so whatever you choose to do, just practice it. And again, when your mind wanders, it's okay. Just bring your focus back to your meditation. So a couple of things that have helped me that I'll mention. They're from a company called The Great Courses. They produce college-level classes from professors. One that helped me was called Practicing Mindfulness. And if you want someone to take you by the hand and to do a 30-minute meditation with you, there's a DVD course that you can buy, and you watch this professor, and he'll teach you how to meditate, and he'll have you practice. So that would be a wonderful thing that you could do. all of those conditions that we listed at the beginning, you know, back pain, depression, anxiety, would it be worth a 30-minute investment in your time if you could fix that? And really fix it. I don't mean take a drug to cover it up or use television or the internet or whatever to distract yourself from what's going on. I mean really fix the cause of the problem. So that's a wonderful resource. And another course that they produce is called The Science of Mindfulness. And for me, when I bought the DVD one, Practicing Mindfulness First, and I watched several episodes and thought, yeah, that's really great. I should do that. And then I didn't really do it very much. And when I listened to the one called The Science of Mindfulness, then I was sold. What I learned, for example, is that meditation is like exercise for the rest of your body as far as what it does for your brain. People who meditate regularly, their brains do not degenerate and age like everyone else who doesn't meditate. And so it literally trains your brain and helps it be healthy for the rest of your life. In addition to you're happier, you're more at peace, and then all the other things that we talked about. When we meditate, it puts our body in a state that is more conducive for healing. And one thing that's very simple that most people don't realize is that doctors don't heal anybody. Bodies heal themselves. So there's a researcher at Harvard University, his name's Herbert Benson. He's written several books on this topic and what he calls the relaxation response that happens when we meditate. He estimates that about 70% of all health problems would be gone if everyone meditated for 10 minutes twice a day. So we could fix our entire healthcare system in our whole country if we had 70% less problems if people started meditating. So would it be worth 10 minutes twice a day of your time to try this out, commit to do it for a year? And so when I listened to that course about the scientific benefits of meditation, I was sold, in addition to, again, that people are happier, they're more generous, they're more caring, they have better relationships, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.